Turning now to this developing story, a House panel now looking into a report saying the Obama administration pressured intel analysts to skew data to make ISIS seem weaker in their reports. Now, that news revealed this week with 50 analysts at Central Command's headquarters in Tampa making formal complaints, saying their reports were altered by senior officials to make ISIS seem weaker than it was. Joining us now with some insights on all of this, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. He's also a senior fellow with the London Center for Policy Research. Tony, great to have you on board today.
Thank you for having me. Good to be on.
So the fallout on this is tremendous because we're talking about the politicization of intelligence and the ramifications of that quite severe.
Absolutely. I mean, look, intelligence processing is not an easy thing to do. There's always conflicts. I was reminded today by a very senior friend of mine about the fact that it's like sausage making. It's not a pretty process. With that said, it has to be pure. It has to be based on the facts, not on a political narrative. And I think what we're finding here, Uma, is that because there's certain narratives that the administration wants the American people to follow, they're now essentially going behind the scenes, attempting to shape the analysts' information, their conclusions, based on a narrative they want rather than on the truthful narrative. And this is hugely bad, and frankly, it's not in the interest of the American people or anyone to see this happen.
So basically, what you're hearing is that the information that the administration wants to put out is that the war on terror is working. We are gaining ground against ISIS. ISIS is not as weak as we first perceived, and that we do not have to fear its presence as we once did. Is that the narrative at the moment?
Yes, and let me tell you specifically how that's happening. The DOD is now investigating this. There's an IG investigation which is going through this piece by piece. What we found out, and this is new for you and your audience, is that Major General Grove, the senior intelligence officer, the J2 of Central Command, apparently is receiving on a daily basis, every day, Uma, calls from one Jim Clapper, the director of National Intelligence. This is unheard of. This is never done. The DNI actually has a representative who sits at Central Command who's supposed to be the conduit for any contact. This is essentially the administration, the White House, reaching through, bypassing whole parts of the chain of command, attempting to influence the things going on at Central Command. So this is where we believe, a lot of us who are investigating this, believe the critical breakdown is. This is where you see the White House having its emissary, Jim Clapper, pushing its narrative into the process, thereby fulfilling the process, it's basically a self-fulfilling prophecy by being pushed back up to it.
Jim Clapper, you're alleging making daily phone calls.
Absolutely.
To Central Command.
That's what I'm hearing. Yes, ma'am.
And these analysts, what prompted them to finally say enough is enough from their point of view?
Uma, these are good people. These are people who have made their life trying to tell the truth. I sacrificed my career over having to testify about 9/11 failures of intelligence. This is the same thing going on. People understand that. And let me be clear on this. Some of the same analysts who are seeing this manipulation going on right now are going to be part of the Iranian treaty verification. How can we trust anything from this White House if we know that they're trying very strongly to basically taint all the intelligence coming out of the process to their view? We have to be able to have an intelligence community which is able to tell the truth. They cannot be pushed to accept a narrative, a political narrative, and that's why you have these analysts speaking out now.
Do you think this effort is being made at a time when it's very clear that the efforts against ISIS have essentially failed, that we have not been able to gain traction, that ISIS continues to dominate the Middle East and the caliphate is in place, that it is trying to minimize what it can in terms of the fallout here? Because right now, the pictures are telling us a different story.
Exactly.
In a big way.
You can only go so far, Uma, in telling a false narrative because the reality catches up, and that's what we've seen here. ISIS has not been in any way diminished. They have grown. They are now influencing the refugee flow into Europe and America. I heard Peter King talking about earlier. That's valid. They've said they're going to put people in the stream. They're going to do it. They've not been diminished whatsoever. And this bombing campaign is one of the areas that's been manipulated. The battle damage assessment has not been effective whatsoever in slowing them down. So I think what we have to do is do an independent survey by multiple agencies, probably Congress as well, to figure out
we're
why
hearing
we're failing.
that there is a House panel right now looking at this very closely and may put together an investigative team to go ahead and move forward with taking a look at these concerns because a number of senators are saying this raises all kinds of questions and they're not comfortable and very alarmed by what's happening.
And again, we have to watch this in terms of the Iranian nuclear deal. If we can't verify what's going on with ISIS, how can we hope to verify what's going on with the Iran deal? Or we completely missed, supposedly, the movement of Russian forces into Syria. Something's broken badly here. We need to fix it.
All right, Tony Shaffer on top of this, and he's going to continue to update us with more information as it becomes available. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Uma.